Hi guys, welcome to another exciting coding session in your favorite programming channel, TryCoder.com. Today under Python, we'll be seeing what are Python arrays. We are going to see how we can access array elements. We are going to see how to find the length of an array element, looping through an array, how to add array elements, how to remove array elements, and a whole lot of new things under Python arrays. So to begin with, we have to take note that Python arrays are not found in Python by default, but they can be gotten from NumPy, and we can install NumPy from the import library. We are going to see how to install NumPy from the import library in our subsequent videos, but for now our main concern is with Python array. So since Python arrays are not found in NumPy by default, how can we work with them in Python? We can work with Python arrays as a list in Python, and we are going to see how we can do that. But first, we have to get a basic knowledge of what Python arrays are. We have to know that Python arrays are unique variables that contain multiple values at the same time. That's just like Python list, because a Python list contains multiple values, contains many entities at the same time in the same orientation. That's how a Python array can be arranged, and that's how we are going to work, and that's why we are going to use a list as a Python array. We have to also take note that Python arrays are the basic foundation in all data science. That is, we have to have a basic mastery of Python arrays before we can work with Python in data science. So just as how we created a Python list, that is between the elements and the entries are enclosed within square bracket. That's how we are going to create a Python array, and the elements are separated from each other using commas. As we can see here, this is an array in which we created. You can see that this element here is separated from the next element with a comma, and that's how Python arrays are work. That's how we work with Python arrays, and that's how they are arranged. So, and you can see that these are the square brackets. We can see that these are the square brackets that we're talking about, that the array elements must be arranged within square brackets. So let us see how we can work with Python arrays as a list. So before creating our first Python arrays, which is a list, we have to, before accessing array elements in a Python array, we have to first of all create our first Python array list. So we have to first of all open our IDLE, which is our Python compiler. Open our IDLE. So we want to first of all create our Python array. So let us create our Python array. I'm creating an array of fruits. Taking mangoes. Banana. So we have successfully created our first Python array list. So now we want to access an element in a Python array list. In order to access elements in a Python array list, we have to refer an index number. The index number simply means numbers corresponding to the elements in the given list. If the first element in a number line, the first number in a number line is 0. So if one wants to access an array element and we index the first number as 0, the result we are going to have is apple. And if we take 1, the result, the output we are going to have is mango. And if we take 2, the result we are going to have is banana. Let us see how we are going to do that below. Let us see that we are going to do that. So by indexing a number which is 0, and then the compiler to print it, which is our result. Sorry about that, we made a mistake when writing our code. As you can see, the first result which we have is apple, because the index number corresponds to Apple. So when we want to access element in an array, we have to use the index. We have to use the method of indexing a number. So by referring an index number, that's just what we have done, and that's the result we have. So I've seen that the result that we have here is Apple. So next, after learning how to access array elements, we are going to see how to find the length of an array. Basically, this is not different from what we saw in a Python list. We are going to use an inbuilt function known as a length. We are going to use an inbuilt function known as a length. So we are going to copy the code that we wrote above. And we close our bracket. So we have to check if everything is okay before taking enter, so we won't get a syntax error. As you can see, the length has simply counted the total number of elements found within this array that we created above, this array list that we created above, and it has returned the result as 3. Why being 3? Because there are 3 elements present. If it could have been 4 elements present, the result could have been 4. So that's an inbuilt function we can use to count the length of an array element, count the total number of elements present in an array list. So next, what we're going to see under Python array is looping through an array. What we mean by looping through an array, that is, we are going to go through all the array elements present in an array list, and we are going to return the result in a chronological manner. For example, we have apple will be the first, mango will be the second, and banana will be the third. So that is what we mean by looping through an array. We simply go through the array element and return the result chronologically. Let us demonstrate with an example. So I'm going to copy. I've already copied it, so I'm going to take sorry about that. So we want to go through the loop arrays. Well, take note that when doing this, we have to give a space. We have to indent the space, or if not, we are going to get a syntax error. This is only for when we are using the for statement. Whenever you are using the for statement in any given code you are writing, whenever you are using the for statement in any given code you are writing, you make sure to give an indentation, or if not, you are going to get a syntax error, as we just did in the subsequent examples that we were in the codes that we're writing above. So make sure to give an indentation in order not to get a syntax error. So we're going to say print So as I said earlier, looping through an array, we are going through the array elements. We are going through each and every one of the array elements, and we are going to return the result chronologically. So the compiler, we instructed the compiler should go through the array elements and return the result chronologically, which we just did. As you can see, the compiler returned apple, which in our array element is the first element, mango, which is the second element, and banana, which is the third element. So next, we are going to see how we can add an element to an already existing array element. So we are going to use a method known as the append method, which is not quite different from the insert method. The only difference comes in because the append method does not follow an order, while the insert method follows an order. Earlier in our subsequent video, we saw that we use the insert method to insert 2 and 3 into an already existing Python list. And we saw that we inserted 3 after 2. We followed an order, that is from the smallest to the biggest. We were following an order. But now the append method, we use the append method when we want to insert an element randomly into a given Python array. So we are not going to. The append method doesn't follow a specific order. It just inserts element at random into a given Python array. Let us see with an example. So I want to add a new fruit, watermelon. I want to add a new fruit. Okay, I want to add a new fruit into this given array, into the existing array. But now I'm not going to follow any chronological method. I'm just going to append method is just going to insert watermelon at any point that it wants. So I'm going to take print new fruit. As you can see, it has inserted mango at the extreme end of the already existing Python list. So the append method, it inserts, it adds the element that we want into the existing array element without following an order. It just does it at randomly. So that's how we can add array elements. And note that we can also use the insert method, which we earlier saw in the Python list. So next we are going to see how to remove the last thing under Python arrays. We are going to see how we can remove an element from an existing array and from an existing array group of elements. So we are going to use a method known as the remove method, which is an inbuilt function already found in Python. So these are the steps we are going to use. As you can see, if you type fruit and you put a dot without not specifying the inbuilt function you want to see, as you can see, we have the append method, which is an inbuilt function. We have the clear method, which is also an inbuilt function, the copy method, which is an inbuilt function, the count method, which is an inbuilt function, the extend method, which is an inbuilt function, the index method, the insert method, the pop method, the remove method. We have seen most of this method in our earlier video tutorials. So here we want to use the remove method, so we can click on the remove method, which we just did. As we click on the remove method, we want to remove a specified element, and the result returned will be the remaining group of elements that is remaining in our Python array. So what we are going to remove, apple. And we print our new result. As we can see, the remaining result that we have is mango. We have removed mango and banana. We have removed apple. We have used the remove method in order to subtract apple from the existing array elements. So that is how we can remove. That's how we can remove. When we want to remove an array, when we want to remove an element from an existing array, list. So that's all for today under Python arrays. We hope the tutorial was interesting and was well understood. If not, you can leave your questions and comments in the comment section below. Please don't forget to subscribe and like the channel. See you next time in our video tutorials, and happy coding, guys.